اروپا امکان نداشت اینا رو بذاره تو لیست تروریست. الان گذاشتتشون به خاطر اینکه شما جمع شدید دوره هم.
If you listen to the chants, if you listen to those slogans, we are actually asking for help. Like, that's what people chant, like, Mr. Trump, act now.
I literally think we have to start talking to non-Iranians and explaining what's going on.
اینا کارشون تمومه. من ببینید از توی جهنم اومدم بیرون. از خود جهنم اومدم بیرون.
This is a generation that has grown up online. They're globally connected. And, you know, they're doing a really good job of making sure that they're communicating in a language that is globally understood.
ولی ازتون خواهش میکنم مردم نذارید تفرقه دوباره بینتون بیفته.
Hi there, this is episode 419 of Roqe. Don't stop talking about Iran, but not just to other Iranians. In fact, maybe reach out to non-Iranians and tell them what the mainstream media won't. If those of us in the diaspora genuinely want to create awareness, we might need to step out of Persian echo chambers and provide context to the world. Now, this morning at my local gym, I approached a few non-Iranian acquaintances and asked each of them how much they knew about the current situation. All of them, smart, engaged adults, were shocked to hear about the facts. No idea about the massacres, no idea about the scale, no idea about the severity of an Islamic regime that continues to torture and execute. And this is in Toronto. Maybe you've encountered the same with non-Iranians you know or have met. And that ignorance is not simply a moral failure on their part. It's an informational vacuum, and vacuums get filled by propaganda, by bad faith actors, or by comforting but false narratives. The casualties are much lower, and nobody wants a war. The truth is, as the global chatter about any kind of outside intervention or a deal with the Islamic regime grows, so does a coordinated surge of disinformation in the West, and a dangerous confusion takes hold. On the one hand, there are people with vested interests, individuals and media networks actively trafficking in misinformation, laundering regime talking points, and carrying water for a system that has terrorized the Iranian people for 47 years. But then there is the group we need to talk about. Non-Iranians who may be saying no to war with Iran, not because they're dim or because they're big-time activists, but because they're uninformed and like the sound of peace. Sure, they may not understand that this is not about debating a hypothetical future war, but a war Iranians are already fighting against a murderous theocratic state that has killed tens of thousands in recent weeks alone. Misunderstanding doesn't always come from bad intentions or ideological rigidity. It comes from absence of information. And here's where we may need to be honest with ourselves. We Iranians are often speaking to other Iranians in Persian inside a closed digital loop. Now that has real value. It builds morale, it creates coordination, it sustains resistance, but it does not educate the outside world. And the outside world is where public opinion forms. It's where false narratives either collapse or calcify. Hey, if you're not comfortable creating English content, amplify and share the English content you find. If we don't inform the people around us calmly, clearly, human to human, they will continue to be shaped by disinformation and by those who benefit from confusion. You don't need to persuade or perform or argue. Just tell the truth. Reach out to one non-Iranian at a time and tell them what the media won't. It's Feb 26, 2026. This is Roqe. Welcome to episode 419 of Roqe, our Iran Rises series. I'm Jian Ghomeshi, coming to you from Canada, Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz, Durud Basham. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing okay wherever you are tuning in from around the world. This is the 16th episode in our Iran Rises series, this one entitled Fighting Disinformation. And once again, events inside Iran and around the Iranian diaspora, not to mention negotiations around a prospective deal or no deal are moving at breakneck speed. So we should note that we are recording this at approximately 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in Toronto on this Thursday, February 26th. That's around midnight in Iran. As always, we're trying to share perspectives and conversations as up to date as humanly possible. Coming up on this edition of Roqe, as disinformation about the realities in Iran spreads across Western media and social media platforms, we want to tackle this. Have we failed to educate the non-Iranian world about what is really happening in Iran? Is it possible to even do so, swimming against a stream of silence and indifference and misinformation in the mainstream media? And how do we engage non-Iranians to better understand where Iranians are actually at on this and why an anti-war stance may not be what Iranians want? From Vancouver to Ottawa, organizers and commentators Sadaf Yasini and Pegah Ganji will join me to break down the narrative battle unfolding alongside the protests, with slogans like "No war with Iran" often missing the reality on the ground, why regime talking points are gaining traction abroad, and what the diaspora can or must do, personally and strategically, to fight back. And then a little later, a sobering and deeply personal conversation. You may not want to miss this, although it will be a difficult one. He has survived extreme torture at the hands of the Islamic Republic. He lives with physical and psychological consequences every day. Joining us from Los Angeles, Daniel Diba will share his story, not for shock value, but to remind us exactly what kind of regime Iranians are confronting with this Islamic Republic, and why silence and confusion in the West carry real consequences. That's all coming up. Let's get to it. This episode of Roqe is brought to you with the support of Famluxy. Famluxy is a cultural fashion platform dedicated to supporting and showcasing independent Iranian artists. In a time when Iranian voices and creativity face unprecedented challenges, Famluxy stands as a bridge bringing the spirit of Iranian craftsmanship to the world. In 2023, Famluxy introduced its exclusive collection, Glory Days, at New York Fashion Week, featuring the King and Queen line, an artistic tribute to 2,500 years of Iranian imperial heritage and the timeless strength of our culture. So today, in solidarity with the Iranian freedom movement, the entire Glory Days collection is being offered at cost price with a 40% discount using the code Roqe. So if you go to famluxy.com, use the code Roqe, and that's ROQE, you can get your Glory Days Iran clothing at cost. Thank you so much to Famluxy for honoring heritage, amplifying art, and standing with Iran. Today's episode of Roqe is brought to you in part by Stellar Law. Stellar Law is a boutique litigation firm based in Toronto, founded and led by Rana Nosrat Panah. The firm represents businesses and professionals in commercial and contractual disputes, particularly where relationships have broken down and the consequences are significant. Stellar Law's practice is grounded in careful analysis and strategic decision-making. Much of the work involves contract disputes, shareholder conflicts, and complex business disagreements that require both legal precision and practical judgment. Rana and her team are known for approaching these matters with clarity, focus, and a deep understanding of what's at stake for their clients. For those navigating serious disputes with real commercial impact, check out Stellar Law at stellarlaw.ca. Thanks again to Rana and the team at Stellar Law. I know you guys are doing a lot for this Lion and Sun revolution. If you are Iranian, do note that Stellar Law operates in English and in Persian, so if you prefer to deal in Persian, you can do so. Thanks again, Stellar Law. All right, let's get to our panel. Joining us from Vancouver, she's a member of the Lion and Sun organization, one of the organizers of those massive rallies that we've been seeing on a regular basis in Vancouver over the last couple of months. She is committed to establishing a secular democracy based on the separation of religion and state and upholding the right of the Iranian people to determine their political future through free and democratic mechanisms. Sadaf Yasini joins us from the West Coast. And joining us from Ottawa, our regular Roqe contributor and producer over the years and the voice behind the Roqe Roundup, Pegah Ganji. Hello to you both.
Hello.
So, Sadaf, I thought I would begin with you because we, from this part of the country here in Canada, have been seeing these giant demonstrations in Vancouver. Damitun Gam, great job. You guys are doing, and with great regularity, we see these demonstrations in Vancouver. I thought maybe you could just give us a sense. I mean, we're going to talk about disinformation and how we can reach out to non-Iranians, but first and foremost, give us a sense of what you have most experienced and noticed on these big demonstrations in Vancouver.
Yeah, so I'm actually a member of the Lion and Sun organization, which is one of the two teams that organizes the rallies here in Vancouver. We've been working collaboratively to make sure everything is in sync, and we basically unanimously decide on the location or in our communication. So, and I think we've been quite successful in that. Like we have our eighth rally, if I'm not mistaken, this week coming up. Um, this is the eighth week in a row that we've been holding protests over the weekends. There has been, we have a group of actually over 100 team members and volunteers who help us. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes. I can tell you that for sure. I think a lot of people have compromised their personal lives, their careers, to make sure everything goes smoothly because, first of all, we think of ourselves as the representative of the Persian community here, and more importantly, the representative of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. So we want to make sure that we follow the same principles and represent him well.
What has surprised you about who is showing up? Are you seeing generational shifts? Or are you seeing people who were previously disengaged? What have you most noticed?
Compared to a couple of years ago, I think actually, that was a different round of protests, and I think we've noticed that over the years things have evolved, and we see that this time around, a lot of people are involved. Like I would say everybody that I know is pretty much on board and involved because of, like everybody knows that this is the final battle, as we always say, and this is the end. Like we will have to go on. There's no way we can go back. So we have seen people coming to the rallies, participating every single weekend. I think the only one challenge has been deciding on the location, which actually last week was one of the biggest challenges, and because it was announced last minute, relatively fewer people showed up because they were not sure if it's going to be canceled or not. But other than that, we saw on February 14th actually thousands. I think actually the police announced that over 50,000 people in Vancouver showed up, and we had people coming from all over BC, actually from Seattle, from smaller cities in BC. So yeah, lots of people, and actually we've noticed people coming from other communities showing up to support Canadians. I've interviewed myself several MPs, priests from churches, just like regular passersby, joining us in solidarity, students from universities. So I think this time around it is very different, and I think we've been relatively successful in raising awareness in the community.
Are you just as a sidebar, and I almost don't want to ask this question because I don't want to take any of the fuel out of our fire, but I've heard this week. This is the first time I've really heard this over the last couple of months, and here in Toronto, of course, being an epicenter of these massive demonstrations, etc. That I've heard from a couple of people who are quite involved and who probably wouldn't say this publicly, but who have said, دیگه مردم حوصله ندارن, they're tired of going on protests, and they're not, we're not going to get the same numbers. Now, February 14th was so epic, and it was, called as a global day of action by Shahzadeh and all of that, so we can expect that that's going to be a bigger one. We've got another one here in Toronto this Saturday. But Sadaf, are you feeling any sort of fatigue or lack of enthusiasm in terms of keeping this up?
After working with our team, or being involved in the community and being in touch with the Persian community, either on our Instagram page or in person, I've sensed a feeling that not only people are not tired, but the moment we think that, okay, maybe this week we're not going to have the protests, or maybe the U.S. consulate gatherings are going to be, maybe because we used to go basically every day of the week, but now it's come down to 3 days in a week. They actually ask us for it. Like they're just like, okay, what's happening? Like, are we coming to the US consulate today? Is the rally still on? So I don't think people are tired. I think they're even with everything that's happening in Iran day by day, the situation is just deteriorating. So I think people don't want to stay silent, and everyone has this urge to be their voice and come to the streets. So I don't think personally that anyone has but there is a lot of work organizing all of this, and I can tell you from personal experience that I do feel very tired. Sleepless nights, not just myself, our team leads who've been working day and night for this, but it's our national responsibility to do this. So I don't think people feel the backlash. Maybe there is a little bit of backlash from the Canadian community or the citizens of the city, and rightfully so, because they see this happening every weekend. So I know that there's chaos in town. I mean, although we've managed to organize everything really well, but there's traffic jams or roadblocks, and we understand that, and we've always made sure that we appreciate their patience and make sure that we don't disturb them in any way. But I don't think the Persian community is fatigued or want to back down.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that from the West Coast. Pegah, let me bring you in here and let me get to the subject or the focus of what we wanted to talk about on this panel, which is this notion of fighting disinformation that I did my opening essay about. And we're predominantly talking about non-Iranians, that there seems to be this growing delta between Persians, Iranians around the world who know everything about what's going on and know all the nuances of it and debate whether this singer should be included in the protests or not anymore, etc. And non-Iranians who are just way out in the wilderness on some of this stuff. And so I want to get into that and to not blame non-Iranians, because there is a lack of coverage of this, of explanation of this, of education around this, certainly in the mainstream media. So let's start with the demonstrations we just talked about, with Sadaf talking about it in Vancouver and what we've seen here in Toronto, and after that February 14th historic day of cumulatively 2 million Iranians around the world demonstrating in the diaspora, I should say. We did see some media coverage. It wasn't a complete blackout as it had been previously, but it still wasn't what I would feel would merit. I mean, I feel like I know about these Vancouver protests, for example, because I'm in social media following Persians, but I think the average Torontonian wouldn't know this is happening each week in Vancouver, let alone the giant ones here in Toronto. Our mayor of Toronto didn't even show up with 500,000 people there. So what is the media and the institutions, before we get to the actual Canadian citizens and people around the world who are non-Iranians, what are these institutions, what is the media still not understanding about these massive demonstrations?
I think we this is something that we've talked about many times on the show in various situations, where there's so many nuances and there's so many intricacies of the Persian community, the culture, the ideologies, all of these things. And I just think that, the average reporter, and I apologize to, the profession of reporters out there, but really this is what we've seen. I haven't seen many of them do their due diligence to understand those nuances, at least not in mainstream media. We're starting to see an emergence of kind of, whether you call them bloggers or independent media or whatever else, actually taking the time and going and talking to the people at these protests and trying to get an understanding of what it is that the people on the ground, so to speak, are saying. But we're not seeing the same with mainstream media. I mean, you referred to the 14th, and I know in Toronto I was there for that protest, and I know that when I got home, the only thing I saw was, I think it was a maximum of a 3-minute clip that I saw in reporting on that. And we appreciate that, and I'm happy that at least we got that. But really, in retrospect to how many people showed up around the world, 3 minutes coverage is really nothing. I mean, we're seeing more about Punch the Monkey, I think is his name, or whatnot, in terms of coverage. And just to see that comparison is disheartening. And again, I think it's fighting a battle of misinformation, misunderstanding, and not enough coverage.
Sadaf, just in general, before I get to some specifics, what are the most common misconceptions you're seeing among non-Iranians and in the media about what's happening in Iran?
Um, I think that actually just like what Pegah actually mentioned, there's not been enough coverage for sure. We do see news reporters coming to our rallies, but I personally experienced that they first asked. This was my personal experience actually. I think 3 or 4 weeks back. They first asked me the questions. They wanted to see what's happening, but they wouldn't record it on camera. So they wanted to see what you say, how you say it, what your stance is, and then actually get it on camera, which is very disappointing because they should just like video it as it is, and they should just like let people talk, like let us speak our minds. So I think they do have this bias, to be honest, and it was actually surprising that we got invited to the interview for CBC, and I tried to um, get as much possible said in the 7 minutes that I had, but it was still a success, I think, to be able to say even as little as 7 minutes. But again, I think something huge like this, like uh, crowds we see here, I've never seen here in Vancouver before. Like, I mean, there might be hockey games or other events like the polar bear event for January 1st, but other than that, do people in these cities see these crowds? Like, don't they ask, okay, why are these people out on the streets? What are they fighting for? So I don't think there has been enough coverage, and they're not doing justice to um the how do I say it? Like how big this issue is.
Well,
So
I think people don't know. I mean, they don't know. You know, one of the things that I was arguing in that opening essay, I was trying to is to say, look, there's a group out there who have vested interests for whatever reasons, ideological, or they're working, or they're trafficking in the regime propaganda. They're getting paid, whatever it is. They have vested interests in disinformation, misinformation, in undoing, and undermining what the Iranian community around the world is saying, and what the atrocities that this regime has prosecuted inside Iran, what it's done over the last couple of months to underplay that. But then there's this whole other cohort of people who I don't think have an agenda, but who might sort of reflexively take an anti-war position because that's, it's an understandable position. Nobody likes war, etc. Because they really don't even know what's gone on. And I talk about this this, anecdotally about how this morning I went to the gym and I, with intent, went and asked a few people or talked to a few people about Iran. Some of these people I know. I go to the gym every day. I see them there, non-Iranians. Not one of them had any idea. And some of these are educated people who are involved, who are news watching people, etc., had any idea about the massacres, had any idea about the scale of things. And I could see and feel that their opinions around whether there should be intervention, whether there should be coverage of this, whether there should be, the world should be stepping up, etc., would change if they knew what was actually happening. So this is on some level about just basic lack of knowledge about what's going on. And I'm not sure what we have to do about that, but to me, that's a major problem. Pegah.
It's funny as you were saying that, and as I was hearing you both speak, I think there's a big divide between the general populations in these cities. So, like Sadaf mentioned, sometimes there's passerbys. These protests are going on in downtown areas of these cities or highly populated areas of these cities, things like that. And so oftentimes you'll have a curious passerby who will, turn around to someone who's walking in these protests and say, "Hey, what's going on, and what is this about?" and that sort of thing. And that's just, that speaks to the fact that we're doing the right thing gathering every week, and we are having a presence, and we are able to show ourselves and try to get this message out. But then there's the media and the responsibility that they carry. And I think that's what I was saying earlier on, is that I don't think they're fulfilling that responsibility in, sharing what it is that's happening. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what some of our asks are and what the nuances of the community at large, what some of these nuances are. I've spoken to a couple of non-Iranians, and Jian, like you said, yes, there's this anti-war sentiment because yes, war is bad. Nobody wants war, that sort of thing. But I think when it comes to the Iranian community, non-Iranians don't understand that this is not just a say yes or no to war. This is, there's the nuance and intricacies of it's the Iranians versus the Islamic Republic. We are not the same. And I think that is still something that hasn't been understood across the masses of non-Iranians, if you will. Yes, there are some individuals who are starting to understand that if they've interacted with an Iranian friend, coworker, or something, they've really understood that. But most people still don't even understand that most basic thing. And I think that's where the problem stems.
In some cases, it's not just reflexively anti-war. It's that they think that they're being supportive of us, of you, by saying, I really hope there won't be intervention against Iran, and you're kind of like, no. Let me catch you up here. We want that. And that seems so counterintuitive to them because all they've heard is, well, why would you want that kind of intervention? And it's very difficult to kind of take that moment and explain, well, we've tried everything. It's been 47 years. The Iranian people are. But one thing you can say is, do you know that at least 30,000 people were killed over a couple of days? And it's crazy to me that that's something that people don't know. I mean, that's, having worked in the media for years, the old slogan was like, if it bleeds, it leads, right? Like, I mean, if you, and so you normally do hear about atrocities unless there is some agenda to not talk about them, and that lack of information again amongst non-Iranians becomes a real problem. Sadaf, is that something you're seeing in Vancouver?
Yes, I mean, I agree with what Pegah mentioned also. I think the Canadian community or citizen of this city basically are not fully aware of what's happening. And as you mentioned, they have this presupposition about the war and actually the fact that, like, oh, actually, just to put it into perspective, a lot of my classmates were like, "Oh, are you gathering at the U.S. consulate to basically oppose the President Trump's decisions or stances?" And I was like, "No, actually, if you listen to the chants, if you listen to those slogans, we are actually asking for help. Like that's what people chant, like Mr. Trump, act now." So I think there's not been enough coverage. Like we had maybe the mainstream media coming to the U.S. Consulate gatherings maybe once or twice. They interviewed a couple of people, but then we didn't see them at large. Like I mean, maybe a few minutes. They cut in, they obviously cut the pieces that they want to be shown on their news. So I don't know. Like I feel like it's this news is huge. Like it should be top headlines, but it's not. Like which is really sad.
I do think that I am sort of becoming more and more enthusiastic about trying to explain that I think we need to, in a place like Canada, use English at our rallies. And I
Yes.
saw German being spoken at the Munich rally, and I thought, well, that's a good thing, because if we hold a demonstration where all of the speakers are speaking in Persian, some of the signs are in Persian,
Yeah.
and the chants are in Persian. I almost feel like we're sending a message saying, well, this isn't for you. You can come to our rally. You're not going to understand a thing the person on stage is saying, despite the fact that when they speak in Persian, they get much bigger cheer. And I think that's something that is problematic with our demonstrations. Pegah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, Jian, we've talked about this online, offline, in a million different ways, and this is one of the things that I actually feel very, very strongly about. And I've had, various conversations with people in Toronto who have set up these protests and things like that. And I mean, one of our main objectives is to be heard. I mean, here we are talking about the fact that we're not getting enough coverage. People don't understand us. There's misconceptions, all of these things, and yet we're choosing to continue in our own language, in a language that most of these individuals that we're referring to don't even understand. So, and I don't want to say that we should also, it's our responsibility, but part of it really is. I mean, we should also take accountability for a piece of it, right? So if we're holding these protests, if we're only chanting slogans or having speakers or whatnot in Farsi, then what are they supposed to cover? I think that's also part of it too. And I've been very vocal about this, and a lot of people have told me, oh well, like Jian said, there's more enthusiasm or more excitement or comfort in having it in Farsi, but that doesn't help the objective, and I think that's really, really important.
Sadaf, has this come up at your organizing meetings for the Vancouver demonstrations?
Yes, a lot. Actually, I think the organizers basically try to say slogans both in Farsi and in English, but we got to understand that a lot of times not all the slogans translate well in English, or they just don't make sense in a way.
Yeah.
So they don't do justice to the words. So we got to understand both sides, and we got to understand that people like, I mean, Persians, Iranians come to these rallies as a way to take off what's heavy on their chest. So basically, by chanting these protests, they feel this unity. They feel like, like this is a chance, this is a time for them to take this, to take these heavy emotions off of them. So we got to understand both sides. What we've done to actually make sure that maybe the average passerby understands what's happening is we've prepared flyers about what's happening. So we allocate a team to this basically distribution of flyers. So we ask them to go or in the crowds and specifically target non-Iranians, and to be able to give these flyers to them and ask them, be able to answer the questions. We've also made it easier for people to scan the QR code for the MP, um, the petition that we're going to sign by Goldi Gamari. So I think we are doing these little pieces, and I think, like we hope that we will see the results soon. But again, I think it's not so easy to explain it to not.
Oh, we lost your audio, Sadaf. We suddenly lost your audio for some reason. Are you there? No, we still don't have your audio. We can see you, but just
Can you
have
hear me now?
now you're back. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe you were getting a call or something. Listen, you make a really good point. That is a really good point about what is the impetus for our demonstrations, and there is a facility, there is a need for solidarity, which is partly what that's about. It's solidarity with each other, community building, etc., and solidarity with those inside Iran. But there's the separate need too of wanting to bring attention to our issues. I mean, we're not walking down downtown Toronto just to engage in solidarity with each other. We're trying to get attention for the broader world, and I feel like that is the same. Those are the same issues if we migrate to the online world as well, where. Again, I was trying to explain in the opening essay there that Persian social media currently tends to be a lot of Iranians in Persian talking to each other about these issues, and some of which are, have to do with naming and shaming, et cetera, whatever. But I mean, in an echo chamber that really doesn't punch beyond that because it's in Persian. Now, when we're talking about people inside Iran and communicating with those people inside Iran and communicating that kind of coordination and organization and solidarity, I think it's spot on. Of course, that needs to exist, but in terms of reaching out, it seems like a kind of a circular firing squad. It's like there's a bubble that's happening there, and I wonder if amplifying English voices or conversations that are happening in languages other than Persian, depending on where you are in the world, would be helpful. Pegah, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. And actually, I have a little bit of something to add to that, and that is that I actually think Iranians inside Iran are sometimes doing a better job at having their own voices echoed or shared in English. Because I mean, if you look at some of these images that are coming from inside Iran, you have students writing in English as opposed to in Farsi, because that's the point. They're trying to get their voice heard. And another thing to remember, and something that I think is really important, and one of the other items that I think is heavily misunderstood by non-Iranians, is that this new generation is so very, very different. I mean, we've talked about their bravery, their courage, all of these things, and that's all true. But the other thing I want to talk about in regards to them is that this is a generation that has grown up online. They're globally connected, and they're doing a really good job of making sure that they're communicating in a language that is globally understood. And I think we actually need to take a page from their book and understand that this is something we too need to do. I mean, for those of us in the diaspora who have access and have the means and have these connections to non-Iranians, this is exactly what we should be doing. And I just want to add one more thing specific to this generation, that going back to our previous conversation about what's misunderstood and things like that, I think that's also part of the problem, is that a lot of non-Iranians have this historic, if you will, outlook on what Iranians and conflict within our country and things like that looks like, and they haven't understood that there's been a shift, that this is not the same Iran that they looked at in 1970s or wherever or whatever else, right? This is a new generation. They're completely non-reformist. They're past that point. They want change. They want it now. They know exactly what they want, and I think that's also something that we need to start educating non-Iranians about as well.
Sadaf, I mean, I think you are that new generation. I'm not sure your age, but I'm assuming because you're still doing university, et cetera. Are you witness to that Persian bubble, if you will, that echo chamber, and what do you do to try and break that, if anything?
I'm actually personally really proud of Generation V, as Crown Prince Joseph Alavi mentioned once. I think they're doing a great job amplifying their voices, and they know what they want, and they're very direct about it. We have seen that in their chants at universities, and I think it's huge. Like the chants that you hear is like personally, I thought to myself, okay, like if that is how aware they are of the situation, and if that's the path they have chosen and they're so clear about it, no one can change their mind, and no one can stop them from moving forward. So I'm personally really proud, and I think we see them so active on their social media accounts, like specifically on X. They're doing a great job. Like even with the difficulties they have, like all these proxies or the internet connection, like you still see a lot of them coming online, amplifying their voices or people around them. So I personally feel really proud of them, and I think we have a part to play in this as well, a bigger part, because we have access to free internet. We don't have all those difficulties, so we shouldn't be like we should be super brave about actually voicing our concerns online, like not taking any backlash or standing down, because I think we should take this opportunity of living in a free world to be
But
able to express our opinions openly.
but let me maybe be more direct about it. Are we too concerned with programming in social media, if you will, but doing posts or stories, etc., for the sake of other Persians, to get likes from other Iranians, rather than reaching out to a broader audience, to the rest of the world?
I do see that gap. I mean, we had an interview with an independent reporter just a few days ago, but we understand that, like, I mean, he had a personal tie to this matter because his wife was Persian, so he had a lot of personal insight and personal tie to this matter. But honestly, just going back to what we mentioned earlier, I think we're doing what we can, but it's also the mainstream media that needs to take responsibility for this. Like we we I don't think we have access to all these resources, to be honest. Like, I mean, we
We
have
don't, but
our
we don't. But honestly, I mean, not to debate it, but I would say, I mean, this is the point I've gotten to, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, is I don't think we can count on the mainstream media at all,
Yeah.
and so this is like literally on us to,
Mhm.
instead of kibitzing with your Persian friend about whether somebody said something or didn't say something in amongst our Persian community, go to the neighbor across the street or the person at your gym or the person at Starbucks or whatever, and try and explain to one by one. I know it doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do this, but I literally think we have to start talking to non-Iranians and explaining what's going on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that actually helps that is, at least in Toronto, I haven't been in other parts of Canada, and I don't see it as much in Ottawa, to be honest, but definitely in Toronto, I'm seeing a lot of Persians who put flags up on their cars. I mean, I think when you're in a city and you're seeing all of a sudden there's all these flags, it sparks some sort of question or curiosity or something, right? So things that are outward facing, visible, I think we need to be doing more of that. And I mean, if you have the time and the ability to go to random people and have the conversation, by all means, that's great. But on a larger scope, I think having the ability to do things like that maybe will help us as well. And you mentioned like at your local Starbucks and things like that. I saw a video where baristas who are Persian are starting to write on cups and things like that. So anything from our community that could reach the non-Iranian community, I think is helpful. And these protests are a large part of it, and I think they're actually a really, really big tool that we have at our disposal right now. And I don't mean to be critical of event organizers like yourself, Sadaf. I think everyone around the world is doing a fantastic job. I just think this is the biggest tool that we have, and we should be making sure that we're making the most of it by communicating in a language that reaches the masses.
Um, I was smiling because I saw a video with some barista putting Javid Shah on the.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's going to win the revolution, but it was definitely entertaining. Um,
Yeah.
let me
If I
ask you.
can just add something to
Sure.
this. I think the rallies or the protests are a huge part of it, but it's as you mentioned, like when you mentioned the flags on the cars, it's all about these little things as
Yeah.
well. Like the other day I was in the elevator just texting, and the guy that walked in saw this sticker on the back of my phone, and immediately he was like, "Oh, Javid Shah," and I'm like, wow, we're like I was just taken off by surprise. So I think it's all about these little things, like, put your pin up, like
Yeah,
wherever you go, like
yeah,
have the stickers, like have some sort of a sign to basically draw attention. And once you have that attention, take that as an opportunity to answer a few questions. I think a lot of people feel like, I mean, a lot of the non Persians, they think, oh, maybe we shouldn't be asking questions. Like they feel a little, intimidated by this. Like they don't know what the right question to ask is. But I always tell them we're happy to explain. So if you have the tools, if you have the knowledge, because a lot of people might not be feeling comfortable in expressing all of this in
yep.
English, and I understand that. But I think if you can, then take that opportunity, just immediately try to have a short conversation with them and answer as many questions as you can.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
was in 2009 with the Green Movement. The Green wristband had made such an impact, and there were so many people who kept on asking. And I remember even at that time, non-Iranians knew about the concept of, if someone was wearing a green wristband, things like that. And I think, the conversation we're having here is relevant to that. Where yes, there needs to be something outward facing, even if it's as small as a pin or a sticker or whatever. It might spark dialogue, and that's a gateway.
Um, yeah, I mean, I keep returning to that meme, or that slogan that has been prevalent over the last couple of months. Don't stop talking about Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep wanting to add amendments to it, which is don't stop talking about Iran, but not just to other Iranians because they already
Yes.
know about Iran. Don't stop talking about Iran to non-Iranians, which I think would be helpful. A final question to both of you: if you had 60 seconds to explain to a non-Iranian or less why this is not complicated Middle Eastern politics, but a straightforward struggle against tyranny, what would you say? I'll start with you, Pegah, and then last word to Sadaf.
I think the main thing I would say is first, I'd highlight the differentiation between the Islamic Republic and Iranians. I think that's the first key matter. The second would be to reference the fact that an authoritarian regime is influential specifically because of the fact that we're part of the region that we're part of, and it has impacts on a global scale. And that, yes, this is an issue that Iranians feel very passionately about, and of course it impacts them, but this is actually a global issue. And so it's not just about us. It's not about othering or saying that we want their help and it's only because of selfish reasons that we want their help, but about the fact that this is actually going to have impacts on a global scale and that they should be concerned about it as well.
All right, nicely done. I think that was less than 60 seconds too. Sadaf, last word to you.
Um, I would basically just start with the same thing, that the regime in Iran is not to be mistaken with what the people in Iran represent. They're just two different things, and it's always been like that for the last 47 years. I would definitely highlight the role of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi in this revolution, because he is the prominent figure, and they need to understand that the same thing that happened in Iraq or the neighboring countries, Afghanistan, or because of the geopolitical situation, it's not the same thing. So our history, our civilization just makes us different. And this time, um, because a lot of people are, worried about having chaos, or worried about what's going to happen in that region, and, just more conflicts. But I would just try to reassure them that this is not going to be the case, because we have a leader, we have a different history, and it's not going to turn out that way. And a brilliant outcome is going to come out of that.
Yeah, I once again, I think very, very quickly you can turn minds. I mean, if somebody isn't already dug in terms of some ideological rigidity or some issue, I really think it's a matter of just opening people's eyes to what's going on, and explaining, no, this isn't like the other conflicts. It's very understandable for somebody to say, well, I don't know if we should get involved in another thing, and U.S. has a bad track record of this, and do we really want intervention and another war and people dying, and but I do think you can change that remarkably quickly by explaining what's happening on the ground. Any final words to either of you, Pegah?
I mean, I think we've covered a lot of some of the things that we can do, but I think just a message of hope, if you will, is, we've talked about fatigue and burnout and emotions and heightened emotions and all of that, but really, I think, like Sadaf said, this is not like any of the other times. This is not, this is the final battle, and so we need to keep going, and we need to make sure that every one of us, we do what we can and have those conversations with non-Iranians especially, and make our voice heard and echo the voice of those inside Iran.
All right. And Sadaf, any final word?
Just keep the momentum going. Don't stop talking about Iran, like you mentioned. Yeah, this is the final battle. Pahlavi will return, and Javid Shah.
It doesn't rhyme in English. You're right. It doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same twang in English.
Yeah.
It's the final battle. Pahlavi will return. No, it doesn't work the same way. But necessary to be said in English. Thank you to both of you for the work you're doing and for joining us on this day. Thanks for making the time. Thank you, Sadaf. Thank you, Pegah.
Of course, my pleasure.
Bye bye. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.
All right, let me introduce our next guest. I want to introduce a man who has been the victim of extreme torture by the Islamic Republic regime and is living with the implications of it every day, physically and psychologically. It is our hope that by sharing some of his story, we can shed further light on the nature of this horrific regime in Iran and the nature of how they use atrocities and torture to keep the population in line. Daniel Diba joins me from the Los Angeles area right now. Hello, sir, and thank you so much for doing this.
Good to see you, Jian. I really appreciate for your time and having me. I say hello to all people listening us and thank you for that.
مرسی و میدونم که شما حاضری در این مسابقه در زبان انگلیسی اجرا بکنین، ولی اگر هر جایی هم راحت تره که فارسی حرف بزنی، okay. I know we're going to do this, you've agreed to do this interview in English. I appreciate that, but anywhere that you want to jump into some Persian, I'll understand, and so will our audience as well. Thank you again for doing this. Daniel, you just started speaking about these horrific events in your life that took place in prisons inside Iran, the torture at the hands of this Islamic Republic regime that is so extreme, that is so harrowing, and it's so difficult to see in photos and that you've shown and the information that you have. Talk to me about why you decided to start speaking about this now.
Yes, sir. It's very important because the first thing I want to share, I was not a political person. I get the political person after they took me and tortured me. I had like a victim of the change of the government. That's why I am really serious and check everything what they say. When I talk to the Miss Zomorodi, I let them know Iranian people is really good people, and there is the reason of any time is get like a گول خوردن گولشون زدن با it's when the Khatami is coming, they put something like a cinema is opening something of that. After that is I'm talking about Ahmadinejad by Yarani. After that Rouhani said I'm not same as that guy, and after that is Pezeshkian is coming and said I cannot do anything wrong. After that I'm not that person, but the people, most of the thing I'm not talking to today, its people is getting around himself. The people should be understand like Ashkan Khatibi, like you guys, like other people. We are standing is front of us is really smart people. I think is Mullah is like they hire someone and they put we said in cyber time they always is give the wrong information, propaganda and everything. We are getting around in any time, but this time is different, Jian. This time is different. This time, a lot of people in Iran, a lot of people is outside and inside. They're opening the eyes. They're opening the eyes. They want to silence them. They just grow up like a couple of days before in university. When they started this revolution, I think this time the people is understanding who is front of, who is we have to fight for that. If some of the people in Iran, after they arrested, they understand what they have over there. Like Ashkan Khatibi. Ashkan is so smart person. I talked to him. He is so smart. They have good information for Iranian. That's why I try to, I know is my family is on the really bad situation right now. But this time I think the time to share my story, and because I share my story to Mossad, I share my story to FBI, I share my story to CIA. They know what's going on over there. All the government here, they know what's happening over there. I share and they know. But the people is never see this picture because they doesn't think when I come out, I can send this message to everybody and start it. But I got silent to today to see these people have to know.
And you, I should note that you have shared your medical records with us, and it is, as I said earlier, harrowing to see what you've been through, and the kind of I'm sorry to say this, the kind of damage that this regime has done to your body and to you psychologically. Daniel, if you take us back in simple terms, I know you were a successful businessman. When did this begin? This nightmare? What was the reason they first gave for detaining you?
Yes, sir. There is, I had a small business before for the cosmetics and perfume as a wholesaler, and they changed it to the import and export. I had four shareholder in my company. All the people they have reached, and I managed this company by myself at that time. The reason is
were you in Tehran? Where were you?
Yes. I was in Tehran, and I had the business for the import and export. Perfume and cosmetics is a high level of that. For the like a very good brand in French and South Korea, and I sell it in my country to all the pharmacy and all the like a large business for the cosmetics and perfume. At that time, one of my shareholder is the business for the cosmetics and perfume in Iran is like a medicine. The medicine in Iran is like a mafia, and same thing happened for the cosmetics. There is the hand of the government inside for that. Is like a car business, medicine business, all the business they have. Actually, the government have the hand on it. But our business for when we want to get all my item from the border to Tehran, we have to pay the money for the people to can release this item. At that time, there is one of my shareholders. They told me we received a very bad news for us. The IRGCs sent a message. They wanted 52% of business, and they want to use our company because we are successful for the import and export. They want to use it against the sanction. And this is not asking us for accepted friendly. This is the order from the IRGC.
Right.
I told them if they want to use our company, they have to give us the information. The bad thing I want to share to you, I got the bad luck at that time. When I get the information, I share to one of the fake agent for the Mossad, and then this is the bad thing that's happened to me. After I share it, I understand this one is work for the government. And they come and took me, they kidnapped me at the first day. They broken my teeth, they broken my nose. And at the first time they took me.
I'm assuming they accused you of being a spy. Is that what they did?
Yeah. They're accusing me for spying. But I want to send the flash I have for the information to the someone they know. They want to use our company as against the sanction for the to use for the it's bomb atom. They want to use for bring the item for the electrical section and chemical section for that. And when I said, when I get the information after that, I said, no, I cannot do that, but I share this information to someone. And at that time, the people is work for the government. He's coming, kidnapped me at that time. They broken my, when they took me, they broken my teeth, broken my nose, and they took it to military section, is for the spine section. At the first, I want to share for a couple of maybe 1 month or 2 months doesn't hit me because I am in the section for the spine section for the military, and they just put me in بهش میگن خونه شیشه‌ای یا سویت. There is everybody know that when they go to the military accusing for the spine, they put me over there. They just doesn't give me to sit for 8 hours. Sometimes they put me in the mirror. I have to stand for like 6 hours, 10 hours over there. When I ask for the water, they give me the urine. And you see my medical reports, it's 1,000 page. I got 13 surgery for that. All my body is broken. They took my, after the military is releasing me, they give me to the other section. There is they work for the government, but they took me all the time is the different prison. Is not the same prison as we know Evin or something like Qezalesar or something. I see Evin for 2 days, just inside and outside for 2 days. And after that, they took me to the military section. After I go to the IRGC section, the heat is started. They hang me by legs. They hanging me by hands. They use right now we seeing somewhere they start they want to execute me but they put the ice in my legs. I cannot put my legs on the ice, and I cannot do anything. And they do a lot. If I am talking about that, all my document is in the federal court.
How did you, Daniel? How did you survive day to day? I mean, what did you say to yourself to not
No,
give up?
no, I see a lot of people over there for 23 years, 18 years, 15 years. And all the people, they told me, you cannot see outside. Never, ever. Forget about outside. You are dying here. Maybe you are 60 years old, 70 years old, or tomorrow. This is the end of the world you are coming to. And I don't know, the people over there, it's agents, it's people over there is working for government, or it's here for long term, because I see a couple of people over there, they suicide by self. They give us their soap for cleaning up the body. They eat the soap and suicide by self. It's a long story,
Yeah.
and is after it's this happening to me is a lot of they change me section by section, and after they know me, my blood is negative. Oh, they start taking me to the lab section for unit of the chemical, and they have under the one bank, I think so. Under the bank, they have this section for the work of the blood test and chemical test. Uh, I have to share you. Everybody, they know the mercury we touch or injected. There is the reason is you die for that. Never ever you have to in a life. But they know this medication as a mercury, everybody. But after I came out, I tell you how this happened. I checked with a lot of doctor and lab for the government of United States. They told me use this medication. It's potassium, and some of this medication is sodium thiopental. And this is my picture. Is I show in your behind me. It take 8 months. I have this problem in a hospital. Then they injected to me. They told me, if you give us the information, where is the flash, you give it to someone. You have the copy after that. You give that to how many people this flash. I give you the anti-poison for that, and your body is get released from that. When they injected it from my hands, they go to my whole body and started from my hair, and the blister is coming, and go to my back of the neck, shoulder, go to my stomach, go to my back, nose, eyes, and go to my ear. And I was just put someone is the hot water.
Yeah.
All my body is like that, and I ask, please, please, I'm dying. Hey, what are you doing? And after that, I go to the coma for 14 days, Jian. And after 14 days, when I opened my eyes, I was in hospital.
And Daniel, I'm assuming. Forgive me if this is a really stupid question, but I'm assuming what they did. These practices are in contravention of international law, right? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I share my this picture, my doctor and all the military of United States, they work on it. They want to know who is this medication. I got Jianjun more than 500 times lab for military here. They work on it. They understand the IRGC, they work for find something as a biological attack to in between the human and animal. All the doctor they know uh, this injection is like a pemphigoid or something like that. But this is the ORF, or the name is ORF. There is the um, between the animal and human, they have something. IRGC unit, they work for the biological attack to use or make it like a something. Anybody they use it, get same thing happen to people like that. As my information, I don't know exactly. After this couple of years, you see, I send up like a maybe 100-page for you for my medical section.
Yeah. How did you, Daniel? How did you eventually get out?
It's the first time I not get out. I was in hospital for a long time, and they told me if you share this one to someone, there is a lot of people. It's as of my friends and everything. They want to help me. They told me if you get silent, he doesn't do anything for you. But after that, I go outside. I try to find out what are these doing. Again, I put myself, if this happened to any of the city or country, there is a lot of people is die. Same as a Said Imami, you know, the takeover Said Imami, they have the I have all information for that. I know the family. I know what's happening to. They use same medication. They use it to me to the takeover ceremony. Same thing is the sodium thiopental, and he died by the 45 minutes.
And I know that, and I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it. I know that you still are feeling. I mean, your health is always in danger at this point. I mean, you're still feeling the effects of what had been done to you. Can you give us any insight into? I mean, what are you living with right now?
My health is really bad right now. After I got 13 surgery, I use your. If I want to talk, it's taken like maybe 42 hours, 48 hours to I explain it all the happening to me. They arrest me 2 times. The second time they want to when they I share my story to the someone. It's the second time they want to arrest me. They come to my home to arrest me. They shoot my dog. They two of them are really good friendly dog. They kill them and they kidnap me again. This time, the second time is worse than first time. They didn't use this medication, but it's worse. They tried to kill me at that time because I shared again this happening to me to the right person this is time at that time. And when it's they broken my they took all my they broken my no nail. They took my nail. They broken all my
fingers.
انگشتامو شکوندن.
Fingers,
خوردم کردن. ولی من چون اینفورمیشن این بار به رایت پرسن داده بودم، بهشون گفتم من میتونم براتون برگردونم اگه زنده بمونم. این دفعه اگه بمونم میتونم زنده برگردونم. که این دفعه من به کمک دولت تونستم، دولت آمریکا، نجات پیدا کردم و آمدم اینجا. که اینجا سناتورا، کانگرسمنا، تمام اینایی که برات فرستادم، نمیدونم دیدین یا نه، خیلی به من کمک کردن توی دولت آمریکا. خیلی به من کمک کردن، بیمه خیلی خوبی به من دادن، خیلی به من کمک شد.
این وضعیت ایران امروز, when you look at what's happening in Iran right now, what do you want people to know based on this horrific experience that you've had? What do you want people to know about what's happening in Iran right now?
Okay, I want to talk Farsi this section.
Sure.
مردم خوب ایران، آدمای مهربون، آدمای با معرفت، آدمایی که بهترینی تو دنیا. حرف من رو گوش کنید. من از ته جهنم اومدم. من هیچ موقع با ارزشی دعوا نکردم. من هیچ موقع نیومدم کامنت ارزشی رو جواب بدم. من نیومدم با اونا درگیر بشم. من از روزی که اومدم مدرک جمع کردم تا بتونم ثابت کنم تو آمریکا، تو این کشور، که چی داره میگذره تو اون کشور. از پرزیدنت ها که با سناتورها منو با تلفن بهشون وصل کردن، با اوباما که حرف زدن، برای پولی که داشت به ایران میداد التماس کردن به سناتور لوی کوررا که بهش بگو این پول رو نده به ایران. این پول مصرف میشه برای قتل عام بچه‌هایی مثل من. همشون گفتن sorry, I am sorry, I cannot, we are involved in between the very important for two countries. I know, I am sorry for your happening for you, but I cannot do anything. Right now we are in the middle of the very important thing. نایاک، هر کسی رو میبینید شما رو بهتون وایساده، اینا آدمایی هستند که شما رو فقط سر کار گذاشتن. حواستون رو جمع کنید، باهوش باشید. این بار خواهش میکنم ازتون باهوش باشید. افرادی که مثل آقای کیان، ژن کیان، مثل آقای اشکان خطیبی، وقتی باهاتون حرف میزنه با دقت حرفاشون رو گوش کنید. بسیار باهوش باشین راجع به این آدمایی که روبروتون وایسادن. اینا کارشون تمومه. من ببینید از توی جهنم اومدم بیرون، از خود جهنم اومدم بیرون. هیچ جای بدنم سالم نیست. همه رو برات فرستادم دیدی. هیچ جام سالم نیست. معلوم نیست که چقدر دیگه زنده باشم. فکر نمی کنم دیگه 1-2 سال دیگه زنده باشم. ولی ازتون خواهش میکنم مردم، نذارید تفرقه دوباره بینتون بیفته. اصلا گوش نکنید روبروتون دارن چی میگن. من از روزی که اومدم سعی کردم مدرک برای کار خودم حداقل جمع کردم، تونستم ثابت کنم تو دادگاه فدرال. تو میدونی تو دادگاه فدرال تو نمیتونی یک کلمه دروغ بگی، میفتی زندان، برای آخر عمرت میکنن زندان. من وقتی پرونده فدرالم رو باز کردم 1000 صفحه اگزبیت دارم تو فدرال، 5000 صفحه مدرک پزشکی دارم. من تو دادگاه فدرال ثابت کردم شکنجه‌ام، ثابت کردم که این اتفاق افتاده و الان میتونم با قدرت اینو بگم که من همه ایرانیایی که شکنجه شدن رو به عنوان یه آدمی که زنده ثابت کردم تو فدرال. ولی یه چیزی رو بدونید، منو 17 سال ندیدی هیچکی، چون هیچ موقع باور نداشتم شما از این گول خوردن دست بردارین. بابا محوریت داشته باشین. لاغر به خاطر اون جوانایی که خونشون الان دادن بذارید این اتفاق بیفته، بذارید عوض شن اینا. اگر هر مشکلی دارید به خاطر خون اون بچه ها حرمت نگه دارید، لاغر برای اون خون اونا حرمت نگه دارید. برای کسایی که الان تو زندانن این بلاها رو سرشون میارن. ما زندانیای سیاسیمون حداقلش اینه که 3-4 جاشون رو میشکونن، جای سالم تو تنشون نمیذارن. این دفعه یه فرصتیه که همه دنیا رو به روی اینا وایستادن. اروپا امکان نداشت اینا رو بذاره تو لیست تروریستی، الان گذاشتتشون به خاطر اینکه شما جمع شدید دوباره هم. الان به خاطر اینکه تفرقه دوباره بینتون نیفته، با ارزشی و با بسیجی و با اصلا با اونا کاری نداشته باشید، خودتون رو باور داشته باشین اینا امکان نداره دیگه این بار قصر در عوض میکنیم و کشورمون رو پس میگیریم. شاید من زنده نباشم، شاید من نبینم، ولی مطمئن باشی این حرفای من یه روزی تو پخش میکنی، ما اونجا رو پس میگیریم.
Hi, Diba. Dear Daniel, I want to thank you for making the time to come on our program.
Sorry.
Merci.
خواهش میکنم. من I have to say thank you for this time you give it to me. I try to be strong. I try to be a person to fight as a soldier. When I came to this country, I changed my dress to be some survivor, high survivor, to be a good person. First thing, as an Iranian person, as a Persian person. The second, I try to explain it all the happening to me to the government of the United States. Very serious, yes. Very good. And I want to use your platform and send my message to any lawyer. Any lawyer, if you right now seeing this program, contact me. Use me as a testimony to any UN section. I'm ready to do that. As a torture survivor, I can talk to the Congress, the Senate. If you want to come to the Canadian government, I am ready to do that. Any doctor, they see this page, they see this platform, they can contact me. I can share all my documents. Maybe they can work on it and find a very, really serious thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure we don't end up editing this, so I have to wrap it up because we've gone much longer than we expected.
Yes,
but I appreciate you, and I thank you for making the time. I really do.
Thank you so much, Jian Ghomeshi. I appreciate you, and I send my good message to any Iranian, hero Iranian, and American, Iranian American, and Jewish American Iranian. Love you guys forever.
Hope to see you in person sometime soon. Merci. Khodafis.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
I have to thank Daniel Diba for doing that. That is a story he has not been telling for years and that he has started to tell. And it is even just telling the story and listening to it is so difficult. And I really appreciate his candor and coming out and laying that out for us. As with that and anything else on this program, including the panel we had on fighting disinformation, if you want to contact us about anything and let us know your thoughts, info@roqemedia.com is where to do that. info@roqemedia.com. And you can obviously post your thoughts on any of our platforms as well. This is full time for this show for today. Thank you to the amazing core team who put this show together twice a week. Savi Roham Meher and the photo and video queen Tina Farahi, as well as Super Parisa Sanjirani. And special thanks to our broader Roqe family, Smart Pegah, Charming Kimia, Talented Anahita, Methodical Kaveh, and the Rising Keon. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and for sharing our content. If you're not a subscriber already, it's pretty easy to do. Just press subscribe on any or all of our platforms. It is free on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Telegram, Castbox, etc. You can follow us on Instagram at Roqe Media, where we put up little video moments of these shows. You can follow me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, in the immortal words of my late Uncle Berhang, Mizun Bashi.